Hi, good morning. It's Mark Owen from Moose Marks PR, the editor of Punchline magazine. Good morning and thanks for joining us. Today I'm actually with Jason Pullen, the Managing Director of Gloucester Quays. Jason, good morning and welcome to Punchline Talks.
Good morning and welcome to my dining room. Yes, in the new world.
Yeah, nice funky mirror behind you there as well. I can
Thanks
see your ball spot, mate.
yes, it's coming on nicely. It's coming on nicely. I
Well,
don't know
first
why.
of all, I just want to say congratulations actually with the footfall figures. I got your press release here, hot off the press, saying about the Quays that are outstanding sales results over this last period. Can you tell us a little bit about it, please?
Yeah, of course. It'd be wonderful to. Before I sort of start that, I'm not wanting to pivot from the question. I just wanted to say that a lot of gratitude and humility to the people of Gloucester, really, who are coming out and supporting us and supporting local safely. So that's just been absolutely marvellous. But in terms of the results, I wanted to try and sort of talk positively about the sort of city and the progress that's been made, really. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And on a day like today, where the national press is talking about 2.1% growth, and the story in the headlines all about sort of retail and hospitality, it was quite positive to sort of really start to highlight the comparison and how things are turning out locally as people support and move forward with their lives in the best and safest way possible.
I mean, the sales figures here are pretty remarkable. You said it's sort of trading levels at 2.5% increase in spend compared to February. And obviously improving, seeing growth. Now I know there's been some winners and losers. What's that been like in the actual Quays itself? Who's in and who's out? What's going on?
Who's on trend and who's not? I tell you, it's it's been very difficult during lockdown because lots of our tastes have changed. So you notice that my lovely attire, rather than suit and tie, which you're probably more used to, I'm in a nice crew jumper on sale at the Quays. And I think that sort of move to sort of casual wear has been really significant. And the sports brands like Nike and Adidas have done really well. And now, as we go into sort of more inclement weather, sort of North Face and different brands like that are doing really well. But I think our results have been even more remarkable in some respects because February is a really tough time for retail. It's one of the quieter months, and obviously August traditionally has the sort of back to school sales and various bits. So it's relatively strong in comparison. So when they're doing a comparison of August to February, it's a little bit deceptive. If you're up in August compared with February, well, it's not such a big deal. But the ONS found that the high street was in clothing and mixed fashion was down February to August 15.7%, just to give a sort of context. And that by comparison we're up. So we're really sort of marching against the sort of national average. And just in terms of Gloucester Quays, during the August, our F&B sales were like for like positive 17%, helped by the government schemes and support as well. But I think it's really interesting. But also I think it's a lot to do with the Quays positioning. We've taken this out of town use. We've driven it into a beautiful dockland estate with with fantastic water and scenery there. And I think that openness, that open space, has really helped us to continue to sort of be relevant to people. And as I said at the top, we're entirely grateful that people are trusting us, feeling safe, feeling that like the controls and the checks that we put in place are so good, and they're trusting us in that. So really positive. But at the same time, we've had a lot of administration, CVAs and administrations happening in the sector across the piece. So it's kind of real success story and a real positive as the outlet is prospering and really benefiting from having more stock than we've ever had, as people are ordering online, which is the area of retail along with grocery that's been so relevant during the pandemic. As all of those returns and that stock is sort of circulated, it's cleared traditionally, in part through outlet stores. So I think that's part of the reason for the sort of the difference, as we benefit to some degree from that sort of stock position, Mark.
I never realised that's a lot of the goods being sold are actually returns back through the Quays stores as well. So obviously,
yeah. And as they purchased stock to clear through the high street and they couldn't sell it, they've got a number of choices. Do we try and hold it for another season? Do we which is like holding cash, which is very difficult, or do we try and clear it? So what the outlets are benefiting from now is getting high street, more high street current stock than they've ever seen before, all being sold at between 30 and 70% off. So fantastic news in this time. Yeah, you can pick up a bargain at Gloucester Quays. Yeah.
Always trying to flog it. Now, there has been some bad news, because obviously at one point it was Jack Wills was looking very dodgy. I think Coluccio's has gone, isn't it? Which is very sad. One of my favourite restaurants, but of course closed in Cheltenham as well. There was one of the pizza venues has gone as well. Ben Italia was there on the opening. All the rugby players there. Again, a great shame. But also, on the flip side, you replaced some stores, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right, Mark. And it's particularly sad that Cath Kidston went because of their sort of local connotations as well.
Yeah.
But obviously, at the moment with travel, not many people are buying luggage. Yeah. As we all go into the sort of staycation mode. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So at the moment, the Quays is 98% reopened, which is really good. So 98% of our stores are reopened, but there's been those sort of vacancies. But talking to the new openings, to give that sort of balance, really, we've really welcomed some fantastic new stores. So it's fair to say that we've been opening them as fast as they've been suffering administration, which is not about the scheme or about Gloucester, but about sort of the national picture moreover. But yes, no, we've opened up Malton Brown, which is a really great acquisition for us and a great brand. Beauty Outlet has opened recently as well. Neon Chic, which is sort of a trendy brand, has opened, and of course Tommy Hilfiger has opened in the Quays. So we're seeing lots of these sort of new openings sort of coming forward as brands look to clear that stock that they've got. Yeah.
Has the food offering been really hit hard with the closing of the 10 p.m. cut off here at the Quays? I would imagine, like everywhere, it's affecting it.
Like everywhere, it's affecting it. So those numbers are at a point in time. It's more of an August versus the February comparison, and it's fair to say that sort of September has been harder. So on a national picture, in August, F&B was up 5%. Yeah, so we were up 17%. So you can see that we did relatively well with the national picture, but the national picture was a positive place. People were starting to sort of understand and come back to the restaurants and see just how brilliant lots of them had been regulated, how seriously they were taking it, how they were cleaning and etc. And we were all coming back, and I enjoyed many meals at the government's expense. So thank you for that. But that process, or that transition period by the government, and that transition period of support sort of really started to sort of tick down as furlough ticks down, into the October, as we know, and those initiatives have come to a close. During the September, lots of our tenants have carried on with set menu offers and discounts, and that's kept things buoyant. But it's fair to say that that 17% growth has dropped to about 11% during the September like-for-like. So we're still in a very positive position, but it is certainly closing. And more worrying for our sort of brand partners is, as you sort of mentioned, the sort of macro effect of the 10 o'clock hard close, because they're losing lots of their ability to serve the evening trade, which is really important. And what's happened, over the last few days, I completely understand, because being safe and the virus and people are our priority, not profit. Yeah. So I completely understand. But what's happening with the hospitality sector in particular is that it's very difficult, as the sort of who knows what will be announced on Monday by the government. But if it follows a sort of the Scottish model or anywhere near, where significant areas are effectively closed completely again, and then where that's not the case, their opening times are being reduced to sort of 6 o'clock closes, then effectively they're losing lots of their evening trading covers, which will make it really hard on their profit lines and margins as they sort of move forward. But I'm sure the government and people will rally, and we'll and we as a landlord will take our responsibilities absolutely to the front to support our tenant brand partners as they go through that. But it is going to be a very difficult time for hospitality. But I don't think we can ignore the fact that this is a sort of temporary thing. And in my view, the best thing we can do is control this disease, and make sure that we can have a fantastic Christmas as retailers and F&B and etc. So if we're going to do and have to do this for people's welfare, and for a myriad of reasons, then now is the time really to get into action, because no one wants to have a COVID Christmas, do they? Yeah.
No. One of the things that struck me, and I did feel for you guys, because I know that you spent around £60 million investing, bringing the old cinema from the Peel site over into the Quays site itself, and fantastic development there. And of course now the cinema world has decided to close up shop. What sort of knock-on effect do you think that will have on the overall destination of Gloucester Quays? Because that's how you packaged it, wasn't it? This Quays outlet, this destination, and it was working. It was bringing people from Cardiff and Bristol and and Birmingham, and they're all coming in by coaches.
Yeah.
What the effect is going to happen to the Quays, do you feel?
Well, at the moment, our footfall is running about a third down on what it would normally be. So what we've seen is a sort of more of a sort of purpose-driven spend. So people are coming in for a purpose, to buy their Nike trainers or whatever. Yeah. And that's really helped the average transaction value, which has been great, and we've benefited from that. But in terms of sort of the cinema, that's an evolving feast at the moment. As you said, we really established the Quays as a hub, around and in part with the cinema. And the cinema is in a good position with us, so they've taken a lease extension. They're very profitable in normal times, and it's in a great position. But unfortunately, cinemas didn't have really the boost, and they're much more reliant on what films the studios will release to them. And generally, the studios, the last straw for Cineworld and lots of operators was the sort of second or third delay of some of these big titles, particularly the James Bond title. So even Bond couldn't save us. One last time, James, come on. That's gone back into the new year. But actually, when you look at the films that are due out, they're going to be incredibly strong in the sort of new year, in early 2021. So I can see the cinema business roaring back. But at the moment, with regret, as of yesterday, Cineworld has taken the view that it's not getting the footfall across its platform in the UK as a whole and the US to maintain. So they're sort of gearing down in that way. They've closed the cinema and then they've moved forward. And I think that's a significant portion of our missing footfall is the sort of cinema goers. But to be honest, Mark, lots of folks haven't been ready yet, and that's completely understandable to go back to the cinema. So the footfall impact during the August, when they started to open up again, and during the September, it hasn't been hugely significant, and the F&B has done well. The more worrying factor will be how long this circuit break, if you like, is going to be. The support that's aligned with it is critical for hospitality, because what we all know is that places like the historic docks and the quays and the city centre, and they really are places where people want to be, want to socialise, etc., etc. And we just need to sort of get through this period to look at the light at the end of the tunnel. We don't want some great restaurants and businesses going under, not to be replaced. I fear that there will be further admins and CVAs, and we just have to sort of keep being safe and supporting local. That's all we can do, and that.
It's good that you mentioned the city centre, because the accusation has been for a while that the Quays has sucked money out of the city centre. How do you answer those sort of those accusations, those people that sort of put that on your table?
Yeah, it's another thing to put on the table. Yeah, I think we've done. There's been a lot of research now, and I think 10 years of sort of trading history behind the Quays supporting that isn't the case. As I said earlier, we took an out of town use and we brought it in. So outlets traditionally are on sort of retail parks, and worryingly they've consented one in Tewkesbury. Yeah,
I was just going to come to that actually, but we'll come to that in a second.
And effectively we've driven that right in. And what's happened as a result is that we've added nearly £25 million of GVA, which is sort of trade to the city centre, and there's now sort of over 3 million linked visits, Mark. And anyone who walks, down Southgate Street and that side of town can start to sort of see that flow of people coming backwards and forwards to, from the historic docks through to the gate streets, which is really valuable. And I think actually as a sort of city, we just need to sort of really focus on, what's the character of the cathedral quarter? How can we strengthen the gates and the Eastgate Centre and encourage that work on King Square and that positivity, that gateway coming in and through to the city? Because I think the historic docks, which Gloucester Quays forms a small part of as an estate, is such a USP or a unique selling point for Gloucester. And actually, I'd encourage everybody to come down, even if you don't want to go shopping and go to, you can't go to the cinema at the moment, but latterly, or go to the restaurants or do anything, just honestly take some time out. Have a nice walk around there. It is fantastic. There's fantastic museums in the National Waterways and such of Gloucester and Tommy Nilsson's boatyard, and it's just a nice place to be. Just really.
You mentioned the Cotswold. They call it Cotswold Outlet, or the Ashchurch shopping district, whatever it's going to be. Obviously, it was a surprise to me actually that they got that through planning. It's a big size development. What's your feelings on that? And do you think it will have an impact on Tewkesbury itself and on Gloucester Quays Outlet?
I think they did a lot of sequential testing, which evidenced that it shouldn't have a hugely significant effect on Tewkesbury. Now, I personally, I think they're underestimating that if it does get fully moving forward. And that's a personal opinion, and I completely support all the planning committees to make their decisions, and they've looked at evidence and they know where it is, and it's done, right? So that's fine. What worries me a little bit is when we need our city centres, and Gloucester Quays is in the city centre boundary in the historic docks. Yeah, when we need our city centres to sort of prosper and be walkable in the future age, to keep putting these big sheds, whether they're outlet or out of town or et cetera, that are car dependent and driving traffic and volumes and activity away from what should be our sort of community and neighbourhood hubs in our town and city centres. So for me, I think my preference, and the reason that Gloucester Quays, in my opinion, has worked so well for the city, is because we've done the exact opposite. We've taken that out of town use and we've driven it in, so it's having a positive effect in driving activity, residents, and etc. And as part of Gloucester Quays, I think people know it as the sort of Quays Quarter, and that's great for the cinema and restaurants, and they know the outlet mall is there too. But it was part of a much bigger regeneration, which even today there's 125 million pounds worth of investment going up on the waterfront in Monks Meadow by Crest Nicholson as part of the scheme. And McCarthy Stone have provided 94 units as well for extra living and. So it's part of a real regeneration scheme, where Tewkesbury is offered sort of motorway junction a little bit more. So for me, I think it's actually about sort of prioritising what we want to see for our towns and cities, how we want that sort of character to build. And one thing that is certain for me anyway as a developer is that we want more people living and enjoying those spaces, and more public space and better investment. And I think Gloucester is really well primed for that, because it's such a great city. It's such a walkable city, Mark. I know you jog around the place every other morning, pretty much. It used to be every morning, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but it's so walkable. You can literally walk from the Quays to the cathedral and through the sort of city centre in my stride. I do it in 5, but my wife took 7. But quite comfortably, 10-minute walk, and that is really, really important. Getting that connectivity to work is to the benefit of all the businesses. So the better the Quays does, the more people it brings in from Cheltenham, Bristol, Birmingham, and the more they come, into the sort of city centre to shop at the Eastgate Centre as well, or to visit the cathedral, or to go and see one day, hopefully again, Gloucester win. Yeah.
We live in hope. We live in hope.
We live in hope. Then the better. Yeah. A very really, really important. So actually, I'm all about sort of understanding that to make a cake rise, you need many different aspects, and the historic docks and the Quays and the great progress on Blackfriars and the regeneration around Monks Meadow and Hempstead. That's all part of the ingredients, just as much as King's Square, and just as much as the initiatives that are sort of being driven across the city. And I think
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, about the new initiative and about the digital forum. Have you got a viewpoint on that? Have you seen the drawings on it at all?
I haven't seen the drawings, I'm afraid. So I can't give you a sort of educated view on that at this time in terms of sort of digital forum. But what I can say is that as a city, a city of 123,000 people, Gloucester, has a real passion and mind to get going, and the Gloucester's Good to Go campaign and the cultural work and all of that, those initiatives, along with really sort of proactive, regeneration focused, open for business county and city council is really, really, really positive. And I think Richard Graham also deserves a lot of credit in trying to sort of drive that forward. But in terms of sort of the digital and the sort of cyber in the area, Gloucestershire is really well positioned as well to sort of take advantage of those businesses and do well in terms of us being on the sort of cyber highway and with obviously the links with Cheltenham et al. So I think digital for retail and for F&B and for so many things is such an important market going forward. And what we can say, is that COVID has sort of accelerated the fates really to some extent in terms of how things are progressing and evolving, Mark. In terms of digital and how that economy is growing.
The other side of the Gloucester Quays, obviously, so you've got, like you rightly said, Monk Meadows and the £124 million development over there, which is the land by Sainsbury's, for other people who might not know where it's actually, as opposite the canal. And then on this side, it's opposite the old cinema, which is now defunct, which is now the new Next, which brings me very nicely into the Peel Centre itself, where Toys R Us was sadly closed a long time ago. Burger King is still there, thank goodness. Big Burger King fan. And then you've got some of the retail, which if you don't mind me saying, and I think we talked about this before, it is looking a bit tired. What's your plans, or I know you had some plans once upon a time to get John Lewis here.
Well, we fought so hard. I shouldn't say that because lots of people, we love all the customers from Cheltenham, but we fought hard for Gloucester on that one, and it came very close. But in the end, they opened up in Cheltenham. But effectively, I think you're right. I think the Peel Centre is a really important strategic site because it's aligned to the sort of city centre just across from St Anne's Way. It's really suffered for a number of years because of sort of the retail demand issue and because a lot of retail sheds were pushed out to Eastern Avenue and even beyond that and consented further and further out from the sort of city. Where we are is that we think the Peel Centre is a fantastic opportunity, and Gloucester is completely an investable city. And we're looking beyond COVID and beyond all this stuff, and we're not sure exactly when that will be. But we're looking to have a sort of second phase potentially of investment on our estate because we've got a good 25 acres plus of stuff, and part of that will be looking at the Peel Centre and what's its purpose, how can it better serve and link with the city. Do we need a little bit less retail on there? Question mark. Is there an opportunity to enliven the Canal Corridor project, which was one of the original Magnificent Seven? Is there an opportunity to examine whether additional residential could work along the waterfront as well to really sort of get people living closer to the sort of city, but all the benefits that brings.
Because you own the business park behind the Peel as well, don't you?
We do.
Is Sud Meadow? Not Sud. Is it Sud Meadow? No.
Madley's Industrial.
Madley's Industrial Estate. That's right. Yes.
So which is a fantastic, fantastically important because every job is important, especially now. So we're not talking about closing any businesses down or any such, but what we're looking at really is we've got this natural asset in terms of the canal corridor, and that's a sort of key priority site, and we're just wanting to sort of examine and work with the sort of city to examine how investable it is and how we can reform the sort of Peel Centre. It'll be going through a rebranding and becoming part of Gloucester Quays, which is great. And we're just looking really into can we create that docks gateway, to really enliven and further strengthen.
So the Peel Centre become the docks gateway and maybe a bit more resi on the side of it, so the plan, and you've got some, I can see how that would work really well, because the stuff that's going up, the flats that are going up on the left-hand side of Sainsbury's, they're turning wasteland into these fantastic apartments. They're being snapped up like Billio, which is brilliant. It goes to show that people still believe in the city, even in these weird times. And I can see how that would work if you had resi on the other side as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's really worth examining, and we're doing that. And it's very early days on it. We're still at sort of feasibility, but we see that Gloucester is so investable, so important. And it's also really important to use that sort of brownfield sites rather than just, default to building stuff on greenfield. Why should we do that when we've got 25 acres of brownfield site next to the city, next to the canal? It just is madness. Yeah.
You wouldn't want one of those mini IKEAs then, that they're mooted that they're going to have 50 new stores around the country, or is it too close to Cardiff, too close to Birmingham, too close to Bristol?
No,
or it wouldn't be your bag, not the right brand.
I think it's a great brand, and really, really great. And I think there is room for a sort of an IKEA mini between in Gloucester, because I think we're perfectly positioned for it, and certainly sort of the Next has traded really, really well. I think as part of the sort of examination of what the new footprint of the retail park should be, whether it's existing or it changes slightly, how residential, mixed use, or different stuff, how we can invest in the employment space in Madleys and how that can evolve. As we look at that, then certainly, if we were retaining retail, we'll want to get the sort of the best retail that adds the most to the city. With IKEA, it's a little bit more difficult because people generally won't necessarily link their visit quite as much. They go in, sometimes it's very heavy, it's quite car based, and then they're sort of going out. So in terms of the profile of whether it fits the vision of what we're trying to do with sort of Doctor Gateway and that connectivity, we'd have to sort of look at that.
I would imagine if you come to IKEA, I go to Bristol, if I'm going to IKEA, I wander around. I wander around aimlessly for hours, really only going for the hot dog, and in between that time, the trolley is full of stuff I didn't want anyway, really, or already got. But you don't go out anywhere else. I don't go out to the rest of Bristol. While it's a great brand, I'm not so sure, but hey ho. I think we've covered an awful lot of ground there, to be honest with Jason. And one of the questions I'm always asking entrepreneurs and business people is top 3 business tips, actually. So Jason Pullen, what's your top 3 business tips for the entrepreneur, for the business? What would you say to somebody?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll keep them sort of general so that it's not just about retail. I think the first, one of the first key elements of being successful as in business is to always remember and remain focused on your purpose. Yeah. So that's really important. So Gloucester Quays' purpose, is people come first. Yeah. And that allows us to sort of really start to sort of focus that, the business in that sort of general way. And then it allows us in turn to sort of really understand that, they make destinations great. Yeah. And that social side. And I think that will come back and help us. But, I also think that, have that purpose-driven day, purpose-driven action, always do that. Always be, I'm going to go 3 Ps here. Always don't be scared of looking at your performance. Don't be scared of failure. Listen and learn and adapt. Yeah. I and lots of business guys will have failed countless times, but it's listening and changing that changes that. And the third one really is just be passionate about your product and what you do and how how you sell it, and how you drive it. And of course, you know, it is business, so watch those pennies because they turn into pounds.
That's fantastic. Really nice to see you again, Jason. Thanks ever so much for the time and being so candid and honest with us as well. Really, really appreciate it. And the other thing I'd just like to say, by the way, congratulations on losing, I think it's around 2 stone.
I know. Thank you very much.
You look fab. You look fab, mate. So
I forgive you for the hair loss. You know.
I was only joking. I couldn't see behind anyway. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye.